Well, Google's three-day intense festival for developers held each year in San Francisco has wrapped up. It's used as a platform for launches, a venue for in-depth technical sessions, and it involves a great deal of partying from what we understand as well. Well, this year certainly focused on VR with Google Lens, the big buzzword of the events. The Australian's technology reporter Chris Griffiths just back from the festival. Please say he joins now. Chris, great to have you on the program. Look, just to start with, I was reading some of the reaction to this year's conference, and some had been, I suppose, suggesting it was a little bit underwhelming.
Well, I don't think that at all. Certainly they reiterated their whole thrust towards artificial intelligence and machine learning, as well as virtual and augmented reality. They produced some hardware, for example, James, where their second generation of this artificial intelligence unit that they've got, which runs at a speed of 180 teraflops. That's 180,000 billion floating point operations a second that can learn artificial intelligence. And if you think that's mediocre, you can go up to 11,000 billion operations a second. Now, I don't think that's underwhelming, actually. The other, I suppose, thing for Australians is that Google Home, which is Google's personal assistant that's in the US, is going to be available in Australia from roughly mid-year onwards. And that is a big game changer in having one of those, if you like, little speaker-like devices in your home that you can talk to all day.
What does it do? So I have to admit to have more than a passing interest in the likes of Amazon's Alexa and Google Home, so I'm very much looking forward to being released. But what's going to be some of the functionality when Google Home is released here?
Okay, well, if you're familiar with Google Assistant or iPhone Siri, you kind of get to know some of it. You can ask it all various questions, and you can also do things like set timers using your voice. It all works on your voice, and with Google, it's natural language. You can set up shopping lists. You can control your lights, your air conditioners, depending on what you've got connected to it. So you've got all of this, weather forecast, reminders, it does arithmetic, converts currency. You can ask it for music and listen to news bulletins. So you can have this ongoing conversation all day. And as time goes on, it becomes more sophisticated. But in Google's case, it's connected with Google's assistant that's on the phone. So a lot of that technology is kind of already there and being rolled out. And in Australia, I've had a Google Home for some months now. It can tell me where the nearest Japanese restaurants are. It can tell me the next timetable, train timetable, train leaving my local station, etc. So it's not bad.
Now, I know that some of the other sort of personal assistants, these AI ones, the Amazon one, for example, you can order Domino's and so forth in the US. Do you think with Google Home you'll have a lot of third parties, a lot of retailers, a lot of businesses wanting to have their own sort of adaptability on Google Home?
Absolutely. I think it'll take a bit of time, but once they see how many people have this, and I do believe a lot of people will, they certainly will get on board. There was a really good example at the conference, a US company called Panera, where you'd get out your phone, and you could do this with Google Home as well, ask it that you'd like to order some food. The food comes up on your phone. On Google Home, they can actually put it on your television. You can actually see what to order. Make the order, pay for it using your Google address that you've already put in there in Google Play Store with your credit card, and authenticate it with your thumbprint. All done using voice, no typing at all, and done very naturally. It was a really great demo.
Now, back to the conference. I understand that you spent some time at Google X, their special research facility. That's very exciting.
Yeah, you know, I suppose I've got to keep a bit of it mysterious. I can't talk an awful lot about it because it is a secret research facility. But some time ago, they had a project called Project Loon, where they'd put all these balloons in the air and be able to provide temporary internet at a place where there was a natural disaster. And they have just done this in Peru, where there's been some flooding, and they can launch all these balloons up into the stratosphere. The balloons can communicate with telco base stations and then relay that back down to communities. And they're they've now got to a stage of being able to build these balloons quite quickly. So it seemed a very futuristic kind of. It looked impractical when they first talked about Loon, but it actually seems to have worked. And there's other projects they've got involving putting things into the sky. So it's a very interesting, exciting place to look at.
Talk to us about Google Lens. I saw a little bit written about this, and this sounds very, very cool, these sort of upgrades and what they're doing with Google Lens at the moment.
Yes, well, Google Lens is not exactly new, but what they're doing with it is quite fantastic. It is where you get vision, computers capable of interpreting vision. So you'll be able to get your phone pointed at, you might have seen there, a flower, and it'll tell you what flower it is. Pointed at a building, it'll tell you a bit about what's at that building. If there's a phone number on the signage, it'll give you the option to actually ring that number. And the idea is, again, if there's goods for sale, you can order it. If it's a restaurant, like a Korean restaurant, it'll translate the items into English so that you can understand them. And if it's the back of your router with a code like you might have seen just then, it'll actually log you in to your wireless router. So you've got this nexus between vision, interpreting the vision, and Google Assistant. And what you see, or what Lens see, is something you can then keep the conversation going with the Google Assistant.
Geez, they're really going big on this AI stuff, aren't they, Google? This is a big, big frontier for them.
It certainly is, but I think they're on the right tram because it's where the future will lie. We'll communicate with computers, desktops, mobiles in the way we communicate with the rest of the world, which is by sound, speech and vision. And the idea is that we'll be doing that very naturally with machines in the future. It's a question of how quick it comes on and how good it is.
Can we talk about augmented reality? Because that also seemed to be a big, big focus, not just for Google. It seems about everybody's getting pretty excited about augmented reality, AR, in particular, Project Tango.
Yes, well, we've seen VR and, you know, we had a rollout of that last year, but a lot of people are saying in the long run, augmented reality is where a lot of the applications will be. And the idea with augmented reality is you can superimpose an object on the real world. Everyone got an inkling of that with Pokemon Go last year.
Yes.
But you can do lots of practical things, like you could set up, they had the idea of a teacher setting up a classroom to look like a gallery of world masterpieces where these lovely photos or paintings are on the wall, and the teacher can discuss this and the kids can see that through their augmented reality goggles. Or you could put a Michelangelo David statue on every child's desks and the teacher can talk about it and everyone can look at it at the same time. But one of the really interesting examples they had was going into a hardware store to find a screwdriver, where you could find the screwdriver maybe in a catalogue, put on your augmented reality glasses when you go into, say, a Bunnings. We don't know if Bunnings will ever do this, but they're doing it at Lowe's in the US, and it'll show you, it'll point you in the direction of where this screwdriver is in the aisles. Now imagine if Coles or Woolies could do this, that you could get your shopping list and select the next item, look through your goggles, and it'll tell you, you know, item 30 in aisle 14 or something like that. That's the sort of thing they're aiming at in augmented reality, and they see retail as a big opportunity for it.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Absolutely. I don't know where this underwhelming came from. Chris Griffiths, appreciate it. Thank you.
Pleasure.